Hi guys, it's Elise from Bella Barista, and today I'm going to be talking you through how to dial in the Solo DF64. In a previous video, I've ran through how to dial in the Solo DF54, and it's a very similar process, but there are a few slight differences, so I felt like it only deserved its own video. So in this video, I'm going to be using, obviously, the Solo DF64. I'll be using one of my favourite machines at Bella Barista, the Arkle Coast. I've got our embankment blend coffee, a nice fresh bag of coffee, knockout box, tamper, and a low profile set of scales. So let's dive in. When you first get the Solo DF64 out of the box, it's worth noting it might take at least 2 to 3 kilos worth of coffee ran through the grinders to start making consistent results. If you start by using quality control fail coffee or cheap supermarket coffee and run that bag of coffee through your grinder, what this will do is it will coat the burrs full of coffee oils, and it will also push out any metal swarf that might be left inside the grinder from the manufacturing process. So I suggest doing that straight out of the box. Once doing that, it's then worth getting your grinder zeroed, and that's what I'm going to show you now. So with the newer Gen 2 DF64s, we've got this lovely grind adjustment dial indicator on the top here, which is super handy, and the manufacturers from the DF range actually did this because we saw a lot of customers 3D printing these and selling them on Etsy. So they realised that it was something that people wanted, and they put them on the grinder. So I'll show you the best way I find to zero your grinder. So let me just show you the grind adjustment dial here. It's got this screw at the back here, so you can tighten it and loosen it. So put it back on the grinder, and let's start by to zero it. So we're going to turn the grinder on, and what we want to do is we want to get it to the point where we can hear the burrs chattering. Just keep turning it, and that's when we can hear them chattering. So I'm going to turn it off, and I'm going to put my grind adjustment dial on that zero, because that's where the 0 point of the grinder is, when we can hear the burrs chattering. So I'm going to tighten that up, and that's zeroing it. So now that I've zeroed my grinder, it's finding out whereabouts on the adjustment dial range you are for espresso. So I usually tell most of the customers that buy these grinders that you're around 20 to 15 on this grinder. Super handy that you have the whole top burr carrier here as your adjustment range. Don't forget that if you've taken the top burr carrier off, you do have to screw it on 3 or 4 revolutions before you get to the point where you're in this range. But like I said, we just want to put it on 20 to 15, and we'll start there and see how we get on with dialing in the grinder. So when you dial in your grinder, you want to make sure that you've got a good espresso recipe, so that you're only changing one variable during your dialing in process. So I'm going to be using an 18 gram dose for a 36 gram yield, so 36 grams of espresso out. That's a 2-to-1 ratio. It's what we usually recommend here at Bella Barista. So I'm going to start by weighing out my 18 grams. So now we've got 18 grams weighed out, it's time to pop it through the grinder. Some people like to have the grinders already on and going. I've only got 1 dosing cup, so that wouldn't work for me. So I'm going to leave the grinder off and pop the beans in, and then put my dosing cup in the holder and turn it on. Just going to purge all the retained coffee out with the bellows. And there we are. So now we've got our 18 grams, and let me show you the sort of consistency we're looking at. So what we want is it to form a bit like talcum powder or icing sugar in your hand, but when you rub it between your fingers, there's a slight graininess like sand, which is what I'm getting from this, so hopefully we'll have a good extraction. So what we could see from that extraction was that it came out much too fast. So we had 36 grams, or actually a bit more than 36 grams, extract in only 12 seconds. So that says that my grind level is much too coarse. I need to go much finer. So from that 20 to 15 range, I want to be much closer to the 15 than I do the 20. So let's adjust the dial and dive back in. So you want to be adjusting your grind level whilst grinding coffee through the grinder. So if you don't do this, then you can end up getting sometimes a stuck bean, or even when you actually adjust the grind level, the full amount of coffee that comes through might be from the old grind level and some from the new, so you'll get inconsistent results. So I'm going to start with just purging through with some coffee and adjusting the grind level. So we got a 36 grams, or it was a little bit over because I didn't stop the button quick enough, gram extraction out in 25 seconds. So our window for a perfect extraction time is 25 to 32 seconds. So I'm just on the cusp, so I can still go a tiny bit finer, but I have still got Gold Cup standard espresso there. Now, a few things that I just want to note from my espresso extraction. It was very uneven, so you can see that it came out one side much quicker than it did the other. So this could be down to quite a few things. It could be channeling in my coffee, so it could have been down to bad distribution technique on my behalf. It could also have been down to a bad tamp level, so I could have tamped a bit inconsistently and a bit on a level. And also it could be down to the surface of the coffee machine is sat on. So this bar here that the machine sat on might be slightly uneven, which is why it might have come through one side quicker than the other. But I've still got a lovely extraction there, and that's the main thing for this lesson today. So it may seem like that was pretty easy, but I was very lucky that only one adjustment dial change actually made the espresso extraction come through in the correct time frame for me. And you might not be as lucky as that, so it is very much trial and error when you first get this grinder going, and you might find that you end up using quite a lot of coffee, so don't feel disheartened because it happens to the best of baristas. But now that I'm actually in that frame, I just want to run through a few things that you might find whilst you're trying to dial in your grinder. So when I was talking about the adjustment dial range, and I said it's between 20 and 15, this might not be on your grinder, but that's where I suggest you putting it on. I also said that I would be much closer to the 15 than I would be the 20 when I first found the extraction come through. Now that is still a really small window. So when you find that your extraction is coming through too fast or too slow, you only want to make minute changes. You don't want to be changing dramatically from one level to the other. So you only want to be moving the grind level adjustment only slightly whilst you're grinding coffee through it. Otherwise you could be all over the place and it will take you much longer to dial in your grinder. Also, there are a few things that can actually change the extraction of your coffee coming through the machine that doesn't actually come from the grind level itself. That can be things like tamp pressure. So making sure that you have a consistent tamp pressure every time is quite important when you're dialing in your grinder. So if it's just one person dialing it in rather than a group of people trying to dial it in, and you just try and make sure you aim to get the same pressure every single time. It's not too important, but it's definitely something to look out for. I just want to remind you about what I said at the beginning as well. If this is a brand new grinder, which this one isn't, it's our demo grinder, so I didn't have to season the burrs. But if it is a brand new grinder, don't feel disheartened if you've dialed in your grinder and you find the next day it's not quite the same as it was the day before. It will take at least 2 to 3 kilos, if not more, coffee to bed in this grinder, so you start seeing consistent results. And lastly, there are a few other things that can affect the way that your espresso extracts through the machine, which isn't also from the grind level. So you might find that yesterday you had a perfect 32-second extraction, and then this morning you woke up and you had a 25-second extraction. Now at the moment we find ourselves in a heat wave in the UK, so the temperature can make a real difference with how your coffee extracts through the machine and how after it's ground through the grinder. So don't feel too disheartened if you're getting a few anomalies now and then, because temperature can make a big difference in your grind level and how it extracts through your coffee machine. So I hope you found this video useful. Just a short video on how I find it easier to dial in the DF64. If you have any questions, pop them in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next week.